I used to believe something about myself that I now know simply wasn't true, but for a long time, it held me back more than I ever realized. I always believed that I was someone who just didn't finish what I started, and that showed up in many areas of my life, from not finishing college on time to job hopping and going through lots of different jobs and careers, starting many different businesses and then closing them when they weren't working out. I even had a very brief marriage when I was in my mid 20s. And after I ended that marriage, started to make a series of bad relationship decisions. And I felt like I was just sort of all over the place. And that pattern really became my identity for most of my life. Believing that that was my identity caused me to have really, really low confidence for a very long time. I really didn't trust myself because I always felt like, okay, well, if I start this, I'm probably not going to finish it. Or even, what's the point of starting this because I'm not going to finish? I was also very concerned about how other people viewed me because I felt like if I feel this way about me, other people must see it too. And they must think that I'm flaky or, inconsistent or can't be trusted to follow through. I just felt so stuck and demoralized. And I truly did not believe that I had it in me to do the things that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted so much more for myself, but I didn't think that I was capable because I was still believing that old thought pattern that I would not finish, I was inconsistent, and that I would not complete anything that I started. There were two things in my life that showed me that what I was believing about not finishing things really wasn't true. The first was something that I spoke about in my video last week, and that was going back to college and finishing and doing well. The second thing was when I started a fitness routine and really started to stick with it. And I started to realize, oh, wait, I am sticking with things. It's not true that I give up on everything. And so that was really when I saw that was a turning point in how I saw myself and what I believed about myself. Being able to shift that mindset didn't happen overnight, and it is definitely still a work in progress. I still often have those thoughts pop up that I'm not going to finish what I've started, that I'm not good enough, that I'm flaky, all of those past thoughts that I had about myself, even though I know aren't true, they still pop into my head from time to time. But even though they do pop into my head occasionally, I know that they're not true and I'm able to kind of move past it much better than I used to when I believed that it was true. Um, and because of that, I've been able to open myself up to new experiences. I've also let go of the idea that I have to finish everything that I start because there are lots of things that I've tried that simply didn't serve me, maybe in that season of my life, or maybe just for me in general. And so being able to see that made me realize that just because I don't finish everything I start doesn't mean that I am inconsistent or that I'm a person who doesn't finish things. And I was able to start trusting myself again by setting small goals, creating some sort of plan to get there, and then by taking those steps to get there. And as I started to do that, I realized that I do follow through on the things that are meaningful to me. We all have things in our past that we're not proud of. We all have old thought patterns that resurface from time to time. And I think it's really important for us to acknowledge the past, but not let it define us. You can still learn from it, though. You can acknowledge the decisions that you made 10, 20, 30 years ago and realize that you were just making the decision that was best for you during that time. And just because you maybe don't agree with something that you did in your past, or maybe you feel shame or guilt around it, realizing that what's in the past is in the past and all you can do is move forward is really freeing. And it really helps to just show you that your past doesn't define you and you can move on from it and you can really do whatever it is that you want to do without that holding you back. Just know that you were doing the best that you could at the time with the experience and the knowledge and the situation that you were in at the time. And so you don't need to let that define you. You can forgive yourself for your past. You don't need to stay stuck in those old thought patterns and you can question those old beliefs. And if you do that, and the more that you do that, it's really going to help you to start seeing that just because you used to be a certain way or believe that you used to be a certain way, that doesn't mean that's who you are today. In my late 40s, I worry much less about what other people think. And that used to be something that I really got stuck on because every time I went to make a decision, I was worried that other people would judge me and think, oh, well, Danny never finishes what she starts. Or, oh, here's Danny with another one of her crazy ideas or her new venture. And, she's probably going to give up on it in a couple weeks. And those were the things that would pop into my head and would really cause me to question whether or not I should be doing something instead of listening to my own intuition. Those old thought patterns really messed me up for a long time. But now I have more clarity on what matters and what's important to me. And I also am much more intentional about the time that I spend on things, the energy that I spend on things, and what I do to fill my time and my days. I trust myself more and I know that if there's something I say I'm going to do, I will do it. Now that doesn't mean that I don't let go of the things that don't serve me because occasionally I do. There might be something that I'm working on and then I realize, you know what? This isn't really something that is benefiting me or my family. It's not, part of my job or my income. It's something that I tried, I'm not enjoying it, and I can let it go. I feel much more compassionate towards the person I used to be. I've forgiven myself for the things that used to kind of plague me and I felt guilty about. And I'm much less attached to the person I thought I was and also the person that I thought I was supposed to be. I see other women doing the same thing and sort of being stuck in those old thought patterns and the stories that they believe about themselves. And, I hear people say things like, I'm not good at that. I've never been able to do anything like that. This is just how I am, or this is just how I've always been. And I can relate to it so much because I also used to think that way. But I can tell you, when you're able to let that go, and it really just like opens up a whole new world to you. And I can give you an example. And I may have talked about this before, but for years and years, I always used to say, I'm not a morning person, I'm a night owl. And so that meant that early morning workouts were out of the question. It meant that, getting up in the morning and maybe meditating or doing yoga or writing or reading, none of that stuff was even a possibility for me because I believed that I was not a morning person. Well, come to find out, I actually am a morning person. And I found that out by stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit, knowing that I really wanted to start a fitness routine. And the only time that I had to do it was waking up a little bit earlier, getting out of bed, and doing like a 30-minute workout. And I'll tell you, that was such a big deal. It was a big deal to me because it was something I had never done and it was something I didn't believe that I could do. And looking back on that now, and that was probably like 11, 12 years ago, it's so funny to me because it's just something I do every day now. And it's not like I don't think about it, I don't obsess over it. It's just something that I do. And so challenging that belief about who I was opened up a whole new world to me. And now I am like, fitness is a huge part of my life and a huge part of my routine. So if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you're held back by who you think you are, I would really encourage you to first just think about what would you really want? What would you want for your life? What would you want to do if you didn't feel like anything was holding you back and you had absolutely no limitations? And then I would take that a step further and ask yourself, what is it that's holding you back? Is it because you don't feel like you're a morning person? Is it because you feel like you can't change your diet? Is it because you feel like you're not a good writer? Is it because you feel like no one's going to care what you have to say? I mean, there are a million stories that we all tell ourselves, but I would really ask you to think about that. What are you telling yourself about yourself when there's something that you want to do and then something in your brain flips and says, well, no, you can't do that because XYZ. So think about whether that's actually true or not. And if it's holding you back, is there a way that you can let go of it? Can you question it? Can you look at evidence to the contrary that maybe you do actually finish things that you start, or maybe you can actually get up earlier in the morning? Really think about that and really dig in deep, because when you do that, again, it can open up just a whole new realm of possibilities for you in your life. And maybe you feel like you have a lot of evidence that supports that identity that you've created for yourself. But I would, again, really encourage you to question it, reframe it, and see if you can look at it from a different perspective. And maybe it's not that you failed. Maybe it's not that you can't do something. Maybe it's just that you didn't have the right system in place. And I can give you another example. And this is something I've talked about extensively with my running. I always used to say, I'm a slow runner. I can't complete a 5K without walking some of it. I'm never going to get faster. I'm just going to get slower as I get older. But I believed that because I had never been able to do it before. When I changed the system that I was using for training, all of a sudden I've been getting faster and faster. I ran a 10K over the weekend and I beat my best time by 7 minutes. That's over a minute faster per mile, which I never in a million years would have believed I could do. But again, it was because I had changed the system, the action plan that I had. So if there's something that you really want, and maybe you've tried it before and felt like you failed, and maybe now you're telling yourself, oh, I'm just not good at that, or oh, that's just not something I can do. That's not necessarily true. You might just need to tweak the system a little bit. So, tweaking that system and then following through on it and doing those small actions, those action goals that I talk about all the time, can really help you to start building your self trust. And then in turn, you actually have new evidence that proves that the belief you had about yourself isn't true. So please know, if there's a story that you believe about yourself and you've been telling yourself and others for years and years and years, you're able to outgrow that. You're able to question it. And I think you may find that the story you're telling yourself is probably not really true. Now, if this has resonated with you, I would love to hear more about what types of beliefs you're working on challenging and what you're trying to overcome. And please also make sure that you comment below, that you subscribe so that you can continue getting this information and this content. And I would just love to hear from you and hear what you're working on.